in progress.
Hi everyone, it's Mark here again. I'm the founder of the Arts and Culture Network. We've just tipped over 180,000 members across our 8 arts and culture LinkedIn groups. But of course I don't get to meet everybody, but when I do it's a delight. And Jonathan Goodwin has joined me today. Jonathan is one of our new full members. And we're going to have some fun today. I'm going to create Jonathan's fantasy cultural year from the answers to some easy questions to which there are no wrong answers. And I have a magic wand and a time machine at my disposal for this. Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. It's great to see you. Thank you for joining us as a full member and coming along for this. Before we get started on our fantasy cultural year, perhaps you'd be kind enough to say hi to everyone and tell us what gets you up in the morning.
Hello everyone. It's really lovely to be part of this amazing network. What gets me up in the morning? The idea of working with people. I love and have continued throughout my career, which has been in education and in the arts for the last 30 odd years. And the last couple of years, due to I needed to step back from that cultural life to look after my father, who's sadly no longer with us, and worked in the corporate world. But I am leaving that corporate world because it's driven me mad. And I want to return to the cultural world and to like-minded people who I have missed with a passion for the last 4 years. Because creatives are an amazing group of people. And I'm not saying that the corporate world isn't full of creatives, and that's been part of what I've been trying to do for the last 4 years. But I miss. Someone said, "Do you miss your people?" And I went, "Oh, I so miss those creative types." So what I'm about to leave Riyadh. I have been here for the last 8 months, working with a consultancy Saudi company, and it's really focused my future of getting back into the arts and culture. Hence why I joined the network, because I need to reconnect.
That's great. I love the phrase on your LinkedIn profile where imagination meets strategy. Does that kind of sum it all up for you?
I think yes. I mean, from my point of view, I started back in 1993 as a drama teacher. And then worked my way through to eventually university vice principal role, but working with West Sussex Youth Theatre, working with creatives and young people who've gone on to careers in the professional world, and it has just been a joy. But the moment I stepped out of that world, the joy started to get less. So it is. I've been trying to bring that world and the corporate world together, because every creative I've ever worked with are very special people, and they do things that, in my experience in the corporate world, they do more. And when I'm in the corporate world, people aren't the same.
Yeah.
They're just not.
Was it? I think it's Rory Sutherland, who was the chair at Ogilvy, might still be. He was posing the question. He said, when the creative department in a company want to do something sort of imaginative, they have to go and check it out with the sort of the finance team. But when the finance team want to do something different, they don't have to go and speak to the creative team. He said it's a bit of an anomaly, but
Yes.
so having made the leap of faith, what does the ideal gig look like? Where do you want to be sharing your expertise and experience and enthusiasm.
I think I'm going to go back into the education world, but I did something about 4 years ago where I went into a lot of international schools and really worked on creativity across their curriculum, and using performing arts and all those skills across every department. So I was working with mathematicians, historians, and working on projects that all brought them together,
Nice.
but using creativity as the key. And I remember talking to the staff, and one science teacher said, I said, well, when do you use creativity? And he says, we do that once all the exams are over. And it was a really interesting starting point
Yeah.
of how they bring that
Okay, so
into their.
I'm inspired now for your fantasy cultural year. Um, I think we're going to call it the creative classroom.
Right.
Okay, it's going to bring all of that enthusiasm, expertise, and experience to you. But in order to do this, to start our fantasy cultural year, I need to place you somewhere in the world.
Okay.
And I'm going to do that by asking you, what's your favourite building?
It might be a cliche, but I love the National Theatre.
Excellent. I'm going to show everyone just in case they haven't seen it. One of our members who is now a oh, hang on, wrong one. She's now a coach, a creative coach. She used to be general manager at the National Theatre. Let me share my screen so that people can picture where you are. Here we go. There's the National Theatre. Wonderful. I think the Undercroft is there somewhere. I used to skateboard there in the 70s.
Yes, it is there.
Yeah, loved it. So there's the National Theatre. Now, I'd like you to imagine then, let's find a little spot for you. Here we go. I'd like you to imagine there's a pop-up theatre, a pop-up bar here.
Yeah.
Okay. Next to the brutalism that is the National Theatre. And it's 6 o'clock on a June evening. It's sunny, it's warm, and you're enjoying the view, and there is a drink on the table next to you. What will I find there?
You would find, having not had any alcohol for the last 8 months whilst I've been in rehab, I am looking forward to a really good gin and tonic.
Fantastic. Gin and tonic it is. There's a book on the table next to you. What would we find there? It could be a favourite book, a book that's been with you all your life, a book
It
that's...
sounds my childhood, the one thing that got me going was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Wonderful. Love it. And your headphones are in and Spotify is playing. What's playing?
I like, on that sort of day, I like sort of 1940s, 50s jazz.
Wonderful. You see, those four things alone sum you up. You know, you're at the National Theatre with a gin and tonic, with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and with some 40s or 50s jazz. Love that. Excellent. Now, you're feeling quite pleased with yourself because you've just come from a meeting in the National Theatre with a wealthy London-based family foundation who have got wind of this mission that you're on to bring creativity back to the classroom before the exams. Okay. They would like to hire you for a year. Okay. The fee is enormous. The travel is first class. And they would like you to travel the world to create a kind of global league table of who gets this right, so that all different countries can learn from each other. There is a film crew will follow you because you're making a TV series. There's a book deal. There's a TED talk when you get back, and a global university lecture tour, should you wish. Okay. Does that sound like fun?
It sounds like a perfect job in the world.
There we go. That's what we're here for. All you have to do is to decide, in what city would you like to start?
You know, that's been really interesting. The one thing I've loved, this last weekend, I went to travel south in Saudi. I went to a place called Abba and really just went around all the cultural elements. And there is a place there that was magical. And it's interesting here at the moment in the kingdom, they're really beginning to value their culture and they're wanting to drive their culture. Obviously, oil is being moved. So it's odd. The one thing I would want to do is start probably either in Abba or Riyadh, but where their culture needs to be shared, explored, because that's the one thing that has excited me and I've learned whilst I've been here is the drive to embrace their own culture and to share that globally.
Fantastic. So that's the first leg of your trip. So you're going down the road, or you're going to do that. The second, so let's assume that you've done that and you've taken the learnings and you're off onto a different city in a different country to start the global tour. Where might you be going next?
I'd love to go to Barcelona.
Barcelona it is. You're on the plane, okay? You turned left when you got on the plane. The steward brings you a gin and tonic and a note from the Family Foundation back in London. They've got a musical challenge for you. They would like you to limit your musical listening to one very specific genre or type of music for 12 months to the exclusion of all else. What would you pick? Would it be 40s or 50s jazz, or would it be something different?
It might be a cliche, but the genre would be musical theatre.
Nice. Someone chose live music, which I thought was very clever, on these. Musical theatre, fantastic. Okay. Now we're going to buzz again from Barcelona. You've done oh no, sorry, we're still in Barcelona. A group of young creatives have met you at the airport. They whisk you into Las Ramblas, and they say, right, we've got a beautiful loft apartment for you while you're here. We're going to come back and take you to a dance performance and then out to dinner. Now, this is where the magic wand and the time machine comes in, because you don't have to remain in the present day or in that national culture. So if I could put any dance performance on the stage in front of you, historical, any dance group, style or dancer, what would you like to watch as a dance performance for a couple of hours? I know you're in Barcelona, so there is an obvious one, but you don't have to choose that.
It's interesting. When I started to work with a friend who is a dance teacher who I work with, she introduced me to all sorts of dance, which I wasn't normally exposed to. So I'm trying to think of something that inspired me. I mean, I went to see many years ago a company called Frantic Assembly, which was sort of physical, Frantic Assembly, which was physical theatre dance, and it was something I'd never seen.
Let's have a quick look. There we go. There's Frantic Assembly.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we've done the show, and it's time for dinner after the show. You can choose any national cuisine you like. What would you opt for? Barcelona has it all.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, just having lots of tapas.
We can do that. We can do
Lots
tapas.
and lots and lots of tapas.
Let's buzz again to another city. Where are we going?
Um, I think I'd like to go to Boston.
Boston. Fantastic. Now it's sport day when we get to Boston. We had breakdancing in the Olympics last year. We've have ice dancing and dressage, so arguably some sport constitutes performance art. You can choose any sport to watch for a couple of hours in Boston. It doesn't have to be an American sport. What would you enjoy watching?
Mm-hmm. Actually, one of the things when I first went to, it was American high school football. Didn't understand it, didn't, but I remember vividly of it was like a dance,
Mm,
how they play and people coming on and off and the strategy and how that worked.
yeah.
Um, and that was quite exciting because I didn't know, I never watched a live American football game.
Mm, that's a great choice. I love that. Yes, and you've got the cheerleaders, of course, there as well.
And bands, when they had the bands.
Bands, yeah.
This was the college football game, and they were hundreds of musicians
Mm,
synchronized, dancing up the pitch, playing, moving.
mm,
Incredible.
yeah, loved it. I taught drums at the American school in London for many years, so I was immersed in that kind of US band culture. It was great. Excellent. Now we're going to buzz again. Where are we going from Boston?
One place I've not been, which I'd love to go to, would be New Zealand.
New Zealand. Let's go to New Zealand. Let's go to Wellington. And in Wellington, in our fantasy cultural year, there is a new art gallery in Wellington that has taken, you know, those immersive shows where you go into the Van Gogh room. They've taken it a step further. You put on some virtual reality headsets and you can step into the work of a famous artist. It becomes three-dimensional. It's 360 degrees. You can walk around. You can see in 3 dimensions what the artist could only show us in 2. There might be movement and there might be sound. Whose work would you like to step into and walk around in?
Obviously, this is when I know no New Zealand artists.
It doesn't have to be a New Zealand artist.
Okay.
Anyone, living or not.
Yeah, probably Picasso.
Yes. You can imagine, can't you? Walking around, looking at the back of Guernica or something. Yeah, fantastic.
Just the variety.
Yeah, lovely choice. Now, I'm going to whisk you back to London as part of this introductory tour for your year-long contract. We're going out together every night of the week in London. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. On Monday, we're going to go back in time to a musical performance, any kind of music concert, rock, pop, whatever. On Tuesday, we're going to the theatre for a play. On Wednesday, we're going to the West End for a musical. Opera is Thursday, and the movies are on Friday. And between us, we can decide what we see. Okay? So my question for Monday is there a performance that you went to, a music, a concert that you went to that you would love to go back in time and experience again?
Was the Prince's Trust concert in Hyde Park.
Okay, who was on?
This was the amazing thing, and it's only when you look back at it. And it was Bob Dylan, The Who, very early Alana Morissette, Jules Holland. But when you were in it, I mean, this is going back 20 years.
That's a great. I used to go to those shows. I think I went to a Prince's Trust sort of. It was probably Theatre Royal. It might have been the Palladium actually, and I caught Riverdance with the original people.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's great when you have that kind of beautiful smorgasbord of topical acts. Although I do have a problem with Alanis Morissette. I'm sorry, it's not ironic. It's rain on your wedding day is bad luck. If you're a meteorologist, it's ironic. You know, I get really quite angry when that song comes on because it's not ironic. It's bad luck. You know,
It's interesting.
yeah, the good advice you just didn't take is not ironic unless you're an agony aunt yourself. You know. Anyway, that's my bugbear for the day. Right, we're in London, so Theatreland. What would you like to see?
Play-wise, there's a play called Pillow Man by Martin McDonagh,
Okay.
which is a sort of three-hander. Amazing writing. I love Martin McDonagh. Dialogue. It's real. I was lucky enough to do some of his work and just to speak his words. Oh, it's wonderful.
Great choice. What about a musical, West End or Broadway musical? And by the way, we can go back in time. We could go back to the premiere or the opening night.
I mean, I was sceptical of Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
When it started.
Doesn't work on paper, does it? It doesn't work on
Yeah.
paper.
And an ex-student, I worked at Arts Ed in London,
Mm.
and one of the original cast was one of the students. And I kept thinking, all this fuss, what's it? And when I saw it, it all made sense.
Yeah.
It
Genius.
made sense.
Lin-Manuel Miranda. Genius.
To pitch that,
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't make sense.
Six shouldn't work.
No.
You know, on the paper they don't work, but
No.
incredible, excellent. Now, are you an opera buff, Jonathan?
I have watched a few operas, and I was very lucky to see La Bohème in Prague before Prague became Prague. It
Nice.
cost me £1 to go to the opera house.
Let's go back
So
and
this
do
is-
that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And then film night. Now, we've got the IMAX. We're at the IMAX, Waterloo Bridge. We've got the place to ourselves, best seat, wonderful. We might even go to the Sphere in Las Vegas. Okay, with that wonderful, great big. What movie are you treating me to? Big screen, big sound.
Must be something epic. Probably go back to, the Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor,
Mm-hmm.
the Egyptian one.
Yes.
Cleopatra, was it just called Cleopatra?
Yeah.
Just the scale
yeah.
of that.
Yeah, fantastic. That would be wonderful. Remastered. Now we're nearly there. This is great. Thank you for doing this. I hope you've been enjoying your fantasy cultural year. Before you go off and do this and travel the world to produce this wonderful work, I'm going to give you a hero lunch. So I've reserved a table at a top tapas restaurant in London, and for a leisurely 2-hour lunch, and you can invite any one person you like, living or not, famous or otherwise, to come to lunch, and they will come. Who would you like to have a leisurely 2-hour lunch with?
Stephen Fry.
Great choice. I often say to people, I'm very grateful that I'm not more intelligent than I am, because I don't tend to find very many things boring. I'd hate to be Stephen because he must be, I mean, permanent search for things to stimulate him. I don't think I'd be much of a conversationalist, but yeah, that's a great choice. Now, in a slight twist to that question, who do you think Stephen Fry would invite?
I think, what's the guy that invented AI?
Oh, Lord.
There's been some, I've been watching some of his work where he's going, this is a nightmare what he created.
Not Alan Turing.
No.
Where are we?
I'm looking at myself.
John McCarthy? Marvin Minsky? Just throwing out names that Google's suggesting. Yeah,
Geoffrey Hinton.
Geoffrey Hinton. Okay. Excellent. Yes, that would be a fascinating three-way conversation. That would be fantastic. There you go, Jonathan. That's your fantasy cultural year.
I'm exhausted.
I'm sure you must be. TED Talks in the book, in the diary, Global University Lecture Tour, and yes, you become the go-to person for commentary around creativity in the classroom, up there with Ken Robinson. And I love Ken. Have you seen? I love that.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I've got all of his books.
Yeah, great. I love the story about the little girl who's doing a drawing of someone famous. Who's that? Oh, that's God. We don't know what God looks like. We will soon. You know. I love it. I always used to tell my children, please don't let school get in the way of your education. And yeah, that was right. Jonathan, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Wherever this appears, there'll be blurb about you. We'll be on SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, our website, so people can learn more about the work you're doing and your leap of faith. Thanks again for being one of our full members. As a community, we're entirely member funded with no grants, sponsors or advertisers telling us what to do. So it's very much appreciated. I hope you've enjoyed your fantasy culture.
Loved it, thank you.
It's been great. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
See you soon.